Straight ahead on Law and Crime Daily.
All I know is a piece of my heart was not just cut out, but it was ripped out of my damn chest.
Jurors hear from victims' families in the Parkland school shooter penalty phase trial. Plus, basketball player Brittany Greiner could soon face sentencing in her Russian drug trial as negotiations of a prisoner trade receive backlash. And Shakira's alleged tax fraud. Could the singer face time behind bars? But first,
apologies are worthless at this stage. Any apology would not be sincere, and it's come too late.
The plaintiffs suing InfoWars host Alex Jones take the stand in the Sandy Hook civil trial in Texas. Law and Crime Daily, covering court cases from coast to coast. Welcome, everybody, to Law and Crime Daily. I'm Jesse Weber, in for Brian Buckmeyer. The parents of a 6-year-old boy killed at Sandy Hook Elementary School tell a Texas jury how broadcaster Alex Jones's theories about the shooting impacted them and how they're still feeling the effects a decade later. In December 2012, a gunman killed 20 first-grade students and 6 staff members at the Connecticut school. After the incident, Jones told his InfoWars audience it was all a, quote, hoax and staged with actors in order to push gun control. Jones later said he believed the shooting did happen, but claims he had a right to say it didn't. The families of several victims sued the political conspiracy theorist over the comments, including Neil Heslin and Scarlett Lewis, a couple who lost their son Jesse that fateful day. Courts in both Texas and Connecticut found Jones liable for defamation, entering default judgments against him, saying he ignored several court orders and failed to respond to discovery demands. Juries will now determine what he will pay in damages. Before the plaintiff rested on Tuesday, Heslin told jurors to this day he carries a photo of Jesse with him, saying even though he was only 6 years old, his son died a hero, and that any apology from Jones at this point would be worthless.
He died 2 feet from his teacher. The gunman's gun jammed at that point, at one point. Jesse knew that. At that moment, Jesse yelled for his classmates to run. He did. 9 of them are alive today because of his actions. 11 survived. Two were in the bathroom. Jesse died a hero.
Mr. Heslin, is holding Alex Jones accountable for what he's done necessary in your mind to move on with your life?
It is. This trial is the only way I can restore my credibility and reputation. It's been destroyed and damaged by this constant attacks and peddling of a conspiracy and hoax. Alex Jones's apologies are worthless at this stage.
And Tuesday afternoon, Jesse's mother, Scarlett, took the stand, telling jurors how her life is still impacted a decade after the shooting.
You heard briefly that you own a gun at your house. Yes. Is that because of the safety fears that you have?
Yes.
If you'd like, explain a little further.
I'm a single mother and responsible for the safety of both of my boys, and I was not able to keep one of them safe, and so I'm going to keep my surviving son safe. And you can tell, I could tell by the the 2 people that testified from InfoWars, as well as Alex Jones, that they don't care. That's also deeply unsettling.
All right, let's break this down. Joining us today is co-host Terry Austin and legal analyst Dr. Tracy Pearson. It's great to see you both. Dr. Pearson, I'll start with you. You know, Tuesday's testimony from Jesse Lewis's parents was clearly emotional, but the question is it more powerful? Is it different than expert testimony?
It is. Jurors don't consider information in a vacuum. So, what they're hearing information about and who is providing it to them is what matters. And nothing sells loss and impact like human vulnerability. And that's what we're seeing here with these parents.
Terry, as we're watching this Texas trial and as it's ongoing, jury selection began on Tuesday in a separate Alex Jones defamation case out of Connecticut. So is there any way that could complicate this in any way? Could it be a logistical issue?
It is a logistical nightmare. There are two trials in Texas and one in Connecticut in connection with the Sandy Hook shooting and what Alex Jones said about those shootings, saying that it was a hoax. One trial has been delayed, the Connecticut trial, because he filed for bankruptcy, but the judge said she wanted that to move forward. Now he's also filed to remove it to the bankruptcy court, so she has to at least determine whether or not it's going to be moved. So it is halted for now. But this Texas case is moving forward. The witnesses are on the stand, as you can see there. And I think we'll get a decision relatively quickly because it is moving relatively quickly. Frankly, I think that Jones is delaying because he wants to make sure that all of these cases don't go forward. He's already been found liable, as we know, and it's just a question of damages at this point.
You know what could complicate it? Jones on the stand, which is what we are planning to talk about tomorrow. And I will tell you, him testifying, him saying something is going to be definitely something to watch. All right, we move over now to Georgia, where body cam footage was released showing an incident surrounding a mother of two falling out of the backseat of a police car, which led to her death. Last month, Brianna Greer was experiencing a mental health episode when her mother called police for help. Her family says that they've had to call law enforcement several times in the past, but an ambulance would come in addition to the police. This time, only the police came. And the family's attorney, Ben Crum, says that they entered the home, handcuffed Greer, and placed her in the backseat of a patrol car for allegedly resisting arrest. Moments after the patrol car pulls away, Greer falls out of the passenger side backseat, and officials later determined that the door was open. New video shows the moments after the fall.
Run. Hell yeah. We don't need an ambulance. Brown. That shit unlocked by itself. You won't call the ambulance.
She's still breathing. Go ahead. Sit up. Sit up. Go ahead. Sit up.
You need to check out.
Yeah. She jumped out the car.
Very disturbing. And Greer died days later in the hospital, and now her family is demanding answers after receiving conflicting explanations. Still ahead on Law and Crime Daily, WNBA player Brittany Greiner back in Russian court on a cannabis charge amid U.S. efforts to secure her release. But first, Shakira in some legal hot water as she decides to take accusations of alleged tax fraud to trial in Spain. Welcome back, everybody. Shakira could face up to 8 years behind bars as Spanish authorities accuse the singer of tax fraud. A ruling dating back to July 2021 found that Shakira could stand trial for alleged tax evasion for 2012, 2013, and 2014. Authorities in Spain say the singer lived there for more than 200 days in each of those years, making her liable to pay taxes there. Now, while Shakira's team argued her main residence was in the Bahamas, a Barcelona judge accused the singer and her financial advisor of using offshore accounts to hide her income sources. Shakira's public relations team now says the singer did not reach an agreement with Spanish prosecutors and will head to trial to maintain her innocence. A statement reads in part, quote, Shakira and her team consider that this case constitutes a total violation of her rights since she has always shown impeccable behavior as a person and taxpayer. All right, let's break this down. Terry, I'll start with you. Shakira's team says they're confident that they can prove the singer's innocence, but what could a defense look like here? I always thought these cases were straightforward.
Well, the team is claiming that the authorities are really just chasing after her and that oftentimes they do this to people and they often lose. And the authorities are claiming that she hasn't paid her taxes from 2012 to 2014, and they're saying she owes about $14 million. But the defense is, look, she lives in the Bahamas where you don't have to pay income taxes. She was only in Spain sporadically. and they are rejecting any deals because their claim is, look, she's completely and totally innocent. She's always cooperated. She's always paid her taxes. And furthermore, she has been taking the advice of Price Waterhouse. And so it is nothing that she's trying to evade. She's basically just following the advice and following the law. And she's being falsely accused, frankly, of trying to evade taxes. So I think we're going to see a complete trial. And I think she's going to take this all the way because their defense is, I'm innocent.
Great defense on paper. But Dr. Pearson, let's say it doesn't work. What's the likelihood she's actually going to spend 8 years in prison for this?
Well, Spain has become very aggressive over the years with tax prosecution. It wasn't originally, but with Andorra, a small little country nearby, becoming a tax haven, they have pursued folks that have a lot of tax to pay, and Shakira has a lot of tax that she apparently should be paying. We're looking at prosecutors are asking for 8 years, 2 months, which is the max.
Right.
And we're thinking probably at the very least time served if her no criminal record is considered and the judge takes some mercy on her.
All right, this is not the kind of spotlight she wanted to be in, I'll tell you that much. We'll continue to follow the Shakira case, but let's actually move over now to New Jersey. A hit and run caught on camera finds a city leader in hot water. Law&Crime Network's Sierra Gillespie has the story.
A hit and run caught on camera shows a New Jersey city councilwoman fleeing the scene of a crash. It happened at about 8 o'clock in the morning on July 19th. The Jersey City closed circuit TV cameras caught the crash on video, showing a Nissan Rogue slam into a biker and then drive off. Video shows the biker get hit and flip over twice in the air, all as their shoes fly off into the street. The bike is then thrown over to a nearby curb. Seconds later, the biker slowly gets up and a crowd begins to appear. A witness then collects the biker's shoes as the biker rests on the sidewalk. The Jersey City mayor's office now says the person behind the wheel was Councilwoman Amy DeGeese. The biker was identified as 29-year-old Andrew Black, who told news outlets he's experiencing shoulder, hip, and ankle pain since the crash. Black admits DeGeese had a green light and that he pedaled through a red light, but says that doesn't excuse her from driving off. Jersey City residents have now taken to social media calling for DeGeese's immediate resignation. Reporting for Law&Crime Network, I'm Sierra Gillespie.
Wow, great report there. Incredible video. Coming up on Law&Crime Daily, the state's case begins to wind down in the Parkland school shooting penalty phase trial as victim impact statements are presented in court. Plus, Brittany Greiner's trial resumes in Russia over drug possession charges. Here when the trial is expected to end. That's coming up. And welcome back, everybody. Officials in Russia say the Brittany Greiner trial could wrap up soon as the WNBA star appears in court once again. Tuesday marked Greiner's first time back in court since the Biden administration proposed a trade. Now, the deal would allow Greiner back into the United States in exchange for Russian arms dealer Victor Bout. The basketball star and Olympian has been detained in Russia since February when she was arrested for carrying cannabis oil at the Moscow airport. Greiner was charged with attempting to smuggle illegal narcotics into Russia. She pleaded guilty to the charges, but testified that she did not intentionally bring an illegal substance into the country. On Tuesday, a Russian expert testified on Greiner's behalf, saying an analysis of the confiscated vape cartridges did not meet Russian legal requirements. Originally expected to last for months, Greiner's attorney now says closing arguments are set to be presented on Thursday. Let's make sense of this. Dr. Tracy, I'm going to start with you. You know, we still have kind of limited information about this potential the trade of Greiner for this Russian arms dealer, but how do you think that this is going to play out? What could you expect from this proposal?
Well, the proposal seems to include also Paul Whelan, who was convicted. He was arrested in 2018, convicted in 2020 of espionage. And he is American by naturalization. So the idea would be to gather him and to gather Brittany Greiner and bring them home in exchange for this arms dealer. Now, this arms dealer was convicted of conspiracy to kill Americans and to deliver anti-aircraft missiles. So the Russians want him back.
Terry, the conviction rate for criminal cases in Russia is reportedly very high. Doesn't mean that Greiner would necessarily lose, but the question is, how is her defense team doing so far at this point, given all the circumstances?
Well, you know what, Jesse, you are absolutely right. It is a high conviction rate, reportedly, that we've heard in Russia for criminal cases. And this is a criminal case, so it seems like a foregone conclusion. And I do think that that is why she pleaded guilty. But the defense has done a great job so far. First of all, she was on that stand. She testified that, as you said, she accidentally packed this substance and it wasn't intentional. She knew what the law was in Russia and it was inadvertent. We also saw on the stand a physician who testified that she uses this for medical reasons, that she has pain and it's from her basketball playing. Her knees are really in pain, and so she has to use this. And many apparently do use this for these types of athletic injuries. And we also saw character witnesses who testified that she's a supportive player, that she's a great teammate. And we saw the director of that basketball team get on the stand, and he said the same thing, that she's a very supportive player.
All right, seems like the defense is doing all they can, given the circumstances. We'll follow those closing arguments as well. When we come back, we head to Florida for the Parkland school shooter penalty phase trial. You're going to hear the emotional victim impact statements from parents whose children were killed in the shooting. Welcome back, everybody. Emotional victim impact statements are presented in the Parkland school shooter penalty phase trial. 17 people were killed and 17 more injured when a gunman opened fire at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in February 2018. Last year, the gunman pleaded guilty to all charges, and it is now up to Florida jurors to decide whether he receives life in prison or the death penalty. As the penalty phase trial entered week 3, family members of victims gave impassioned victim impact statements.
My firstborn daughter, my shining star, daddy's girl, was taken from me. I get to watch my friends, my neighbors, colleagues spending time enjoying their daughters, enjoying all the normal milestones, taking in the joys, and I can only watch videos or go to the cemetery to see my daughter. It was 4 years ago to everyone, but to me it was yesterday. Alyssa will always be 14. While the world gets to move on with their lives, we don't have that luxury. Missing our daughter every single day. No parent is supposed to have this grief. Without our daughter Alyssa, our lives have been changed forever.
We have an empty bedroom in our house. There's an empty chair at our dining table. Alex will never have a brother to talk or hang out with. They will never again go for a drive blasting very loud music. We did not get to see Nick graduate from high school or college. We will not get to see him getting married. We will always hesitate before answering the question, how many kids do you have? There are no words to express how much we all miss Nick. The world is missing out not having Nick in it.
Dr. Pearson, those victim impact statements are just heartbreaking. They're so difficult to listen to, and you also hear the parents rightfully angry. How do you think that anger is going to affect the jury?
Well, jurors are fact finders. And even though we are hearing a different kind of evidence and we're seeing a non-adversarial process to this point, they are fact finders and are going to apply those facts, hopefully objectively, to the law at hand. However, we can't close out the possibility that these jurors are going to be impacted by just the circumstances and the terrible nature of these children's deaths.
You know, Terry, the judge told the jury that they were going to hear these victim impact statements, but she also cautioned and said these statements are not going to count as mitigating factors in your analysis when you weigh the aggravating and mitigating factors to determine life in prison or the death penalty. So I guess the question is, from a legal point of view, what is the purpose of these statements?
Well, that is very true. She specifically said that these should not be mitigating or aggregating factors in your consideration because legally they have already outlined what the aggravating factors are here. And those are the fact that, this was a heinous crime. It was cold and calculated. It was a capital felony. He had previous convictions of capital felony. And so those are the specific by law aggravating factors. But the purpose of the impact statements is really for each of the families to show the unique impact that the loss has on their family. So they go through, they give examples of how those victims have impacted their lives and how their lives are different now. And it really does give the family some closure. The other purpose is that it does allow the defendant to hear what he has done as far as how he's affected those families. So it serves a unique purpose, even though technically it's not supposed to be an aggravating factor. In the back of the minds of those juries, they're going to be thinking about that for a fact.
Yeah, and who knows what the defendant is thinking when he listens to this. Dr. Pearson, Terry, thank you so much. And everyone out there, thanks for joining us here on Law and Crime Daily. We're going to see you next time as we discuss justice in America.